What's going on to all my Spider-Man MCU fans out there, and welcome back to the channel. Elliot here with Movie Files. This is my pre-prediction, pre-thoughts before I see Spider-Man Brand New Day. It is Tuesday at 9:30. I have a screening at 10 a.m., so I'm going to be headed out soon to see the new Spider-Man film. But before we get into my thoughts and predictions, I want to thank you all for clicking on the video. If you all enjoy this type of content, consider hitting the like button, hitting the hype button on YouTube, sharing this video, and sharing your comments about your anticipation. What do you hope to get in this new Spider-Man film? Let's talk about it in the comments below. So just briefly, if you all do not know, I am a huge Spider-Man fan. Batman, personally, my favorite superhero character, but Spider-Man is in my top three. I have mostly enjoyed the Tom Holland MCU variation of being an Avenger and obviously his solo films. And he's probably my second favorite Spider-Man behind Tobey Maguire, and then followed by Andrew Garfield. And obviously, you got Miles in the mix as well. But nonetheless, I like Tom. I like him as an actor. I like what he's done with Peter Parker, despite the Iron Man of it all being the Uncle Ben per se. But nonetheless, I'm excited for this one, man. I'm a fan of everything I've seen from the trailers, from the look, the cinematography, the new take that we're going to be getting with the brand new day of it all, with Dustin Daniel Cretton directing this film. I'm a fan of his work from not only Shang-Chi, but Short Term 12, Just Mercy. Like, he's a phenomenal character director with, as we saw in Shang-Chi, can do action. So I'm excited for his take. I'm excited for Tom to kind of be on his own without having Iron Man's influence. Yes, we got the Punisher. Yes, we got the Hulk. Yes, we might have a Jean Grey, maybe or maybe not. Ned, MJ, Scorpion, Tombstone, Tarantula. Like, there's a lot going on. So I hope that they can handle all these stories with a cohesive narrative, but still focusing on Peter as Spider-Man, but also Peter Parker. I'm really excited to see more of his story and him being on his own. So next time you all will see me, I will give you my spoiler-free review of Spider-Man Brand New Day. No spoilers, like I said, but I'm excited for this one. I'll be back in a couple hours sharing my thoughts, and hopefully when I get back, maybe we'll have the best Tom Holland Spider-Man, maybe the best Spider-Man of all time. We'll talk about it when I get back. In the meantime, I'll see you soon. And we are back. I have officially seen Spider-Man Brand New Day. And look, as I said in my intro, this will be a spoiler-free review. So don't worry if you haven't seen the film quite yet. I'm going to put this out maybe Wednesday, the day after I've seen the film. But again, this will be a spoiler-free review. Again, thank you for clicking on the video, like, share, comment, all that algorithm stuff that helps on YouTube. And of course, if you're listening to this on podcast, I would appreciate the support. So as we talked about in the intro, I went to this film, had some pretty high expectations, was excited for this film, but also know that this wasn't going to be a Spider-Man No Way Home treatment, right? There was going to be no Tobey, no Andrew, no multiversal nonsense. It's a grounded Peter Parker solo movie. That's what we all wanted, right? He's been in the shadow since we first met him when he was a 15-year-old kid in the MCU with Civil War. He's been in the shadow of Tony Stark. He's been in the shadow of the Avengers. He's been in the shadow of other Spider-Man, right? So do we get a Tom Holland Peter Parker Spider-Man solo? Is it grounded? Does it have heart? Do you feel for the character that we have been with for the past decade or so? We're going to be answering that here in this review. So let's get into it. So the first thing that comes to mind when I walked out of this film was, goddamn, how beautiful, spectacular looking this movie is. Now, we've come, and I don't want to pile on Jon Watts, but if you have been following my channel for a while, again, I have fun with the Tom Holland era Spider-Man movies, but I've always said, and I have video evidence to prove this, I haven't always been the fan of Jon Watts' direction because it feels more like a plug and play director, right? And no offense to him, but he fits in the system. He follows the instructions, studio notes, this, that, and the other, but it never felt like a director's voice. His sensibilities, his personality was like injected in the movies. Like, I know Jon Watts, his whole thing was like the John Hughes kind of younger, fun, energetic Peter Parker. Like, he brought that stylistic choice and that kind of creative personality to the films. But the visual flair, like, is not Sam Raimi's Dutch camera angles, in your face, all the stuff that Sam Raimi comes with. Even what we got with the TASM films with Andrew Garfield, like, those even had a very distinctive look. Like, those, the version of Spider-Man swinging through New York, like, there's a personality there. I didn't feel that with Jon Watts. But going back to what I'm complimenting this film with, Dustin Daniel Cretton, what he brought to this film was a texture. It's an environment. And I don't know if this is maybe a far stretch, but this is the first time in the MCU where New York felt like a character, right? I'm a DC fan, and what I love, there's so many reasons I love DC, but they have distinctive locations, right? Gotham is different from Metropolis. Metropolis is different from, Themyscira and Star City. Like, they have distinctive environments for their characters that is its own character within itself. I don't really feel that about Marvel, besides, Wakanda and Asgard. There's a couple every now and then, but they're not, especially in the MCU, there's not a lot of environmental, like, oh, this, I'm glad to be back in this place. Like, it didn't really have that, but this is distinct. The style, the texture, the feel, the vibe of New York is a character, and I really love that, right? There's a grit to it. There's an atmosphere for it. Again, New York feels like it's alive, and everything doesn't have this overly polished digital look that a lot of the previous films had and suffered from, in my opinion, where this felt like a city and not like a giant CGI playground. I give Dustin all the credit here because you can absolutely feel his fingerprints all over this movie. This film feels like it's made with passion. It feels like it is made with love for the character, love for the world, and it doesn't feel like, and I'm sure there's other people that was involved from the higher ups, Kevin Feige, so on and so forth, but it doesn't feel like it was made by committee, like a lot of the Marvel movie films have felt like in the past few years, but through a lot of the MCU, if I'm being honest. But I know Tom had his hand in the creative process with Dustin, with the writers, and you can feel the identity here, right? The framing, the lighting, the quieter moments, which we'll talk about here in a second, even the way Spider-Man moves through the city, everything feels more intentional. And I will say the spider webbing is spectacular. We'll see how many puns I'll have to tie into Spider-Man here. It's amazing, man. Like, it does have, this film is not shy by saying, yes, we took a lot of inspiration from Sam Raimi, and particularly Spider-Man 2, and also from TASM with the Andrew Garfield movies. There is a lot of that influence in this film, and I love it. Like, again, the spider swinging through New York, it's there. It has a momentum. It has a speed. It's fluid. It's energetic. It's playful. It reminds you why watching Spider-Man movies is just exciting, right? Because you know this is a fun character. He's swinging through alleys. Sometimes he's bouncing between rooftops. Sometimes he's using his environment in creative ways, and I found that to be Spider-Man. And that's what you want with a Spider-Man film. And again, I feel like, again, not to pile on Jon Watts, he, made some fun movies and they were very profitable, but they just didn't feel like distinctively his version of Spider-Man. It just felt like Marvel's collaboration with Sony Spider-Man, where Dustin put a personality to this film. Going back to Dustin, I just feel like he understands Peter Parker, not just the visuals, but Dustin really succeeds in understanding the character. It's the core of this story. It's the core of this character. It's why we love this character. Spider-Man, to me, has never really been about defeating his one-on-one villains, even though I have a villain issue with this Spider-Man. But nonetheless, it's the battle within, right? There's the duality of, if I invest my time and effort in being Spider-Man, how does that affect Peter Parker? And if I'm being Peter Parker, how does that affect Spider-Man? And I thought this film had a really good balance of, how do I save everyone without losing myself? How do I become a better Spider-Man without sacrificing Peter Parker? And I think the movie understands that better than any of the previous Spider-Man films, all the way dating back to Homecoming. But again, Peter is constantly pulled in the opposite direction. If he's always Spider-Man, Peter Parker disappears. If he loses friendship, he loses relationship, he loses the chance to actually live his life. But if he chooses Peter Parker, people get hurt. Where is Spider-Man? He's protecting the city. What has he been doing for the past 5 years since last time we saw him? So I love how it felt very intentional of this eternal war, this tug of war of who Spider-Man can be. And that's why I think the character has endured over the past, 60 years, because we can relate to that idea of, you might be different from when you're with your friends, from when you're with your family, when you're at work, when you're playing video games. It's like we all have this different side to us. Not that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just part of being a human. And that's why I think we can all relate to Peter, because we're always being pulled all different type of ways. And we always find ways to be like, man, who really are we? And I like how this film tackles that within the narrative. Now, speaking to the narrative, another thing that I really enjoyed for the most part was how the emotions work, right? We've spent almost a decade, if I'm not mistaken, whenever Civil War came out, which I think is 2016. So it's been 10 years since we were first introduced to Tom Holland Spider-Man. And this film, in my eyes, really benefits from that history we have with the character. Even if you hate the previous films, you still got a chance to experience a character over a course of 3 individual films, what, 3 Avengers films. So like we have that investment with the character and we've lived with this version of the character. We've watched this kid grow up and he is a man in this film. He's not Iron Man Jr. as people throw that nickname on him. He's his own man. He's his own Peter Parker. He's his own Spider-Man. And that is something that I did enjoy in this narrative is, again, the journey. That history adds emotional weight to even some of the quieter conversations within this film. Sometimes it's not even when Peter speaks, it's just the way he sits in a scene. He's contemplating on what to do, what not to do. He's thinking about his past relationships with the people he's lost. And again, that history really does enhance this experience. And kind of piggybacking off of that enhancing experience, with us having 10 years with the character, it's not just us that's invested in the character, it's the actor, right? Tom Holland has lived and breathed in this character for over a decade, and it just feels like a light switch. He can turn on the Peter Parker persona, turn on the Spider-Man persona. I really do appreciate the Tom Holland experience that we've gotten, and I want to speak to the performance. I think this is probably, and I want to say by default, because I do think he's given us some strong performances through his his run of Spider-Man, but I do feel confident saying this is probably his strongest performance in the role. And again, I've been following Tom Holland since Impossible, since he was 14 years old. So I've even seen the evolution as an actor from him. And I think he really gives a strong performance. Again, as Spider-Man, he's great. The whips, the acrobatics, the fighting sequences, all that stuff, which we'll talk about the banter with Punisher in a little bit, but he is great as Spider-Man. But there is a nuance in the Peter Parker, in the development, and the struggles, and the sad boy era that he's in, and a lot of people love from the comics, including myself. So Tom is great. Zendaya, his wife. And again, another thing we've watched over the 10 years is their relationship grow, which, I'm not a parasocial type of guy, but it has been cool to see their evolution as people and as a couple. But nonetheless, I say all that to say that this is by far the most that MJ has been given in any of the films. And Zendaya, we all know she's fantastic, and she's really great as MJ, as she's matured in the role, as she's grown up. She still has her personality traits that we've come to love, or maybe some people haven't loved. But I do think that Zendaya really kind of is just like Peter and Tom Holland. She knows this character in and out now, and their chemistry is fantastic. Their history, which is explored in this film, like, does she remember him? Does she not? And all that stuff. I thought that they really had a lot of great stuff going on there. So I would say their performances stood out. I'm going to just jump right into Jon Bernthal as Punisher. I was a little bit nervous of, can you bring a rated R character into a PG-13 universe? And it was pretty seamless, if you ask me. Like, he is not dropping F-bombs and shooting people's faces off, but I'm very happy with this version of Punisher in this story and how he fits in the narrative and the history that him and Peter have now and their banter. And again, if you all don't know this, not that it always has to be the case, but sometimes when actors are friends outside of acting, it bleeds into the story, into the movie. We see that with Zendaya and Tom. They have great chemistry on and off camera. And the same thing with Jon Bernthal. That kind of bond that they have really bleeds into this film. Like, the favorite part for me of this movie was the banter between Punisher, Frank Castle, and Tom Holland, Spider-Man, and Peter Parker. Like, I really enjoyed all their scenes. And I thought, again, he's not swearing a lot, but he still is swearing. He's not shooting mobsters and gangsters' faces and noses off, but he's still shooting at things, and particularly the Hulk. So I did really enjoy the banter, and I would love to see more of them two sharing screen time as far as the Punisher and Spider-Man, because their chemistry, their big brother, little brother energy was spectacular. Transitioning to the action sequences, I will say that I personally, especially with Dustin coming off of Shang-Chi, I wish there was a little bit more action in the film, and not giving too much away, but if you've seen the trailer, you've seen pretty much every action set piece, which, again, you see the trailer, you don't have context of how this character is fighting this character, this, that, and the other. But if you've seen the framing at the bare minimum, if you've seen the trailers. But putting that aside, I thought the action was pretty solid across the board. Again, Spider-Man, Punisher going against the Hulk, seeing them on screen was something I never thought I would see in my lifetime, but that was fun, even though, again, it's pretty much all in the trailer as far as how much you see of Bruce Banner, how much you see of Hulk. But nonetheless, it was still great to see. Just a little sidebar, as a Hulk fan, in particularly Savage Hulk, it was phenomenal to see that version of the character again. It's shortly lived. I wish it was a little bit more extended, but he's kind of in and out of this movie. It's literally, you see the scene when you see Bruce Banner as a professor, the scene when you see him becoming the Hulk. That's his extent of how much he's in the film. But nonetheless, it was great to see the Hulk. But going back to the action, that set piece was really fun, even though, again, I found it to be, I wish it was longer. And then, of course, as you've seen in the trailers, Spider-Man versus the Hand, it's great. Again, even if they're not necessarily needed in the narrative, like I still don't know why the Hand is in this film. I mean, but who doesn't want to see Spider-Man going against ninjas, right? Like, it does live up to what you would hope to see and what kind of acrobats and fighting styles and swords and webs. It's a fun time. So is this the best action in the Spider-Man Tom Holland era? Probably yes. I would probably go that far to say this is the best action we've gotten. It's not the best action in the Spider-Man history as far as live action and in animation, but it was still entertaining. I enjoyed myself when it came to the action in this film. Okay, so let's transition into my criticisms. Now, again, I'm putting this out a day after I've seen the film, but you may or may not have seen my out of theater reaction. I came out talking about how I thought the movie was fine, right? And I think I've expressed the things that worked for me in this film, which make this a good movie. I'm just going to say this is a good movie, but it could have been great. Now, these are the things that stopped it from being great, in my humble opinion. First and foremost, I thought that the film was bogged down by its pacing. Gotta admit, guys, I felt the runtime with this movie. Like, it's almost 2.5 hours, and there were points in the film where I'm like, man, this is kind of dragging on. Can we pick up the momentum? Can we get to the more interesting parts of the story, especially the beginning? I don't want to say I really struggled, but I did struggle with the first act of the film. And I'm talking about the first 15, 20 minutes. I thought it was, quite frankly, very messy, because what they're doing is they're truncating 5 years of character development, 5 years of what the character's been doing to get to this point of where the story starts, right? We haven't seen Tom Holland Spider-Man in the real world since 2021, but in the Marvel world, it's been since 2024, because there is a 4-year gap. And this isn't a spoiler. It's established that Ned and MJ went to MIT and they're graduating. So there's 4 years that we're catching up with within the first 10 minutes. And it's like, here's the Rose Gallery, here's Ramrod, here's Tarantula, here's Scorpion, who I thought was going to get more screen time. He gets more screen time than he did in Homecoming, but not as much as I thought he was. But nonetheless, they're truncating his Rose Gallery, which is one of the best besides Batman. I think Spider-Man has a phenomenal Rose Gallery, but they're just rushing through him, being Spider-Man for 4 years. What has he been doing as a human being for the past 4 years? Like, those 10 to 15, 20 minutes just really felt like it was just, all right, let's catch up. Let's kind of rush through all this stuff. And again, not saying that they had to spend 30, 40 minutes on what he's been up to, but I'm not a fan of like montage clips, vignettes or whatnot, because it just feels like, again, it feels like a comic book, which is obviously, this is based on comics, but this is a movie. And this is where character development, this is where arcs happen. I just feel like that first 15, 20 minutes was just something that just didn't work for me. It's not what I would like categorize as like a full-on criticism. It's more of an issue, and it's also a little bit of my fault as well, and that is marketing. Sony, Marvel, any comic book movie, any movie, honestly, nowadays, they give too much away. And this is crazy because this film has been really hiding who Sadie Sink is playing, which we'll talk about her in a second. But I just feel like if you have, and even if you haven't like looked up leaks and looked up, things that are online that we are not supposed to know, I'm just talking about trailers in front of movies or 15-second TV spots. Like, they give so much away in the marketing. And I say all that to say, and again, I am very aware that this is a me issue, but it's also a marketing issue. And I wish they would fix this. But I feel like I wasn't caught by surprise. And it's not that that should be the caveat or should be the demand from an audience, like, oh, surprise me, make me, I don't want to know. Like, I'm not saying it's the movie's job to do that, but it's been 5 years since we've seen this character. And I was just hoping to be getting things that I did not expect is what I'm getting at. And it's just so much about this film. It was like, oh yeah, that was in a trailer. Oh yeah, I read about that in an interview. So again, not a criticism. It's just a critique about why do we show everything in the trailers? Marketing. Like, we don't need a bunch of stuff in the trailers. It's freaking Spider-Man. Besides Batman and Superman, Spider-Man sells just off of the name alone. So again, I'm not saying that that is affecting my score. It's just affecting me enjoying the film because I knew what was coming. acknowledging that that's a part of my fault for watching trailers. I need to stop watching trailers. But at the same time, I do think it's a marketing issue as well. Next issue is a big issue that I have with Tom Holland's Spider-Man as a whole. And that is he has a villain problem, which is crazy to say because I talked about the Rogues Gallery being like he has a large depth sheet, like the bench, the starters, all his villains, not all of them, but he has one of the best Rogues Galleries of all time. But for some reason, when it comes to the Sony and Marvel collaboration, they have yet to give Tom Holland a personal villain. Obviously, Vulture was spawned on the fact that Iron Man took money out of his pocket, took food off of his family's table because of the events of the first Avengers, and obviously Tony hiring the DOC, which was introduced in Homecoming, and that created that villain. But Vulture is my favorite villain out of the entire Tom Holland run. That brings us to Mysterio, obviously a character who was affected by Tony Stark. We go into No Way Home. Obviously, all the villains were from another multiverse. So, and in this film, there is, again, a villain problem. And I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, so I won't say it because I don't know. But the film has a villain, right? It's Damage Control, right? And that's not a spoiler because we've seen how Damage Control has been used in the MCU from Homecoming, Miss Marvel, more recently in Wonder Man. Like they're essentially the new version of S.H.I.E.L.D., but not ran by Hydra. So like they're technically the villain, but then I'm so worried about skating around this, but the Sadie Sink of it all, like the way that she's framed in the movie kind of poses her in the villain, and I'm going to get to her here in a second. So I say all that to say one of the biggest disappointments in the Tom Holland era is the lack of a actual villain with history, with backstory, with tragedy, with ups and downs. It's all coming off of just like nothing personal. And that really is an issue that I have with this version of Spider-Man is he doesn't really have his own villain. Okay, let's talk about Sadie Sink, obviously, without spoiling anything. I'm going to be very careful how I phrase this. But first off, I'm a fan of Sadie. I've been following her, not just from Stranger Things, but she was great in Fear Street. She was great in The Well. She's a great up-and-coming actress, and I like her. And I think she's extremely talented. I think she is, performance-wise, she's okay, right? There's a lot of weight with who she's playing and a lot of weight of what her functionality is in this film. But there's my issue. Sadie Sink's character and how she's used is very repetitive, and I got to be careful of why she's repetitive, but I'll just say it reminded me a lot of Wanda Maximoff with Age of Ultron. It's like, and this is just an issue I have with comic book movies in general, the misunderstood or misunderstanding villain, right? Not all villains have to be mustache twirling pure evil, but I don't like when villains are just misunderstood, where it's like a lack of communication between the hero and the quote unquote villain. And they really play that up to the umpteenth degree in this film. And it makes the things she does prior to if she's good or bad, it makes it feel weightless. Like, okay, well, if this is who you really are, like all the other previous terrible, despicable stuff you did is kind of voided because it's like, oh no, I just misunderstood. It's like, I don't like when movies do that. I don't like when narratives do that. It's a scapegoat. And it just takes away, again, all the stuff the character has done because they were just misunderstood. And it was frustrating. And I'm going to probably talk about this in another video because there's another element that frustrates me about the Sadie Sink character is just, again, the functionality and just how the character is being used now, in the now and also in the future. And I got to stop myself there. It's not a Sadie issue. It's how the character was written. It's how the character functions. And it speaks to, now that you introduce this character, where do we go from here? I'll just leave it at that. All in all, I wasn't a fan of the usage of Sadie Sink in this film. And then last but not least, just a couple more little nitpicks, more or less. I talked about it earlier. The hand is cool. Ninjas are awesome. They did not need to be in this movie besides just visually looking cool, but they have really no purpose to be in this film. And then the ending, not a fan, y'all. Not a fan. There is a post-credit scene that is kind of more confusing than like definitive, but we'll talk about that later. But overall, final thoughts before we get into that and give you my rating. I want to thank you all for making it to this point of the discussion. If you all enjoy these type of videos, these type of discussions, if you're on YouTube, if you can like the video, hype the video, share your thoughts in the comments, share the video. And if you love these type of videos and discussions, consider sticking around by subscribing today. Check me out on my podcast, like the podcast, follow the podcast, give it a 5-star rating. I would greatly appreciate it. With all that being said, let's wrap this thing up. When I walked out of the theater, I said to myself, I like Brand New Day. I thought it was well directed. I thought Dustin Daniel Cretton really understood the character. I thought Tom Holland gave the best performance in the role. Zendaya gave the strongest that she's been in the franchise. Jon Bernthal was a scene stealer. Visually, it's the best looking Tom Holland Spider-Man film. But the pacing drags. It felt long. The marketing gave too much away. Some of the characters don't fully feel realized. There's the villain issue, and I wasn't satisfied with how the story wrapped up. So at the end of the day, yes, this is a good Spider-Man movie and a movie in general, but it could have been great. And that's where the film missed the mark for me, because there's a lot of potential. But at the end of the day, a good film that had the opportunity to be a great film. And with that being said, I will say, from a momentum, grand, larger picture, this is good for Marvel. This shows me they can still make good movies after 3 or 4 years of being in the worlds of Secret Invasion, in the worlds of Captain America, Brave New World, Quantumanium. Like, we've been through some dark times. But I would say, from a Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, hopefully into Doomsday, hopefully into Secret Wars, hopefully into Ghost Rider, hopefully into Black Panther 3, hopefully into the Mutant Saga. These last few movies show me that Marvel still cares for the characters. They're still prioritizing good stories, good acting, good directors with a voice. So with all that being said, Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to get, at a current moment, a 3 out of 5. That might go up on a rewatch, which, by the way, I do have tickets to see it again. I might not go see it. If I loved it, I would have automatically saw it. But I'm like, do I need to see this again immediately? We'll see. But again, as of right now, I'm giving this film a 3 out of 5. But we have come to the end of my review. It is now your turn to share your thoughts on the film once you've seen it. What worked? What didn't work? What'd you think about the look, the feel, performances, story, the Sadie Sink of it all, the ending? What do you hope to see next? Is this your favorite Spider-Man, your least favorite Spider-Man? I'll be sharing my rankings pretty soon. But thank you all for watching and listening to today's review. I appreciate you all. We have a lot of things in the kitchen cooking right now. I have a long deep dive video on the Odyssey. If you all haven't checked that out, it's a really in-depth. I'm really proud of that video. I'm working on another video that's an in-depth kind of analysis on Christopher Nolan, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll probably have other videos surrounding Spider-Man Brand New Day, spoiler discussions, things of that nature. So keep an eye out for those videos. Again, y'all, I appreciate you. I hope you all are staying safe. Don't forget, you all are awesome. And I'll catch you all on the next video.